So I'm here with Professor Elizabeth Lanza, who is a Professor of Linguistics at the University of Oslo and Director of MultiLing, the Center for Multilingualism in Society across the lifespan. So thank you very much, Elizabeth, for joining us today. And I would like to ask you a couple of questions about this notion of family language policy that you've been talking about for quite a while now.
Yes. Okay. Family language policy is especially relevant when speaking about bilingual families and the policies or the strategies they use in order to assure that their child is raised and to become bilingual. We know that there are many bilingual families that have children, and some of these children end up speaking both languages if it's a matter of two languages in the family. Well, in other cases, there are families that perhaps struggle to raise their child bilingually, but the children end up not speaking, at least not using the two languages actively. So the study of family language policy looks at these families and tries to investigate what policies can be conducive to raising children bilingually successfully. We talk about policies, and sometimes people think that they're sort of very strategic approaches, and in one way a policy can be very conscious. For example, we know that there are many families that talk about the one person, one language policy, but there are very many different ways to practice that policy, so we have to make a distinction between policy and practice.
So you were talking about this one parent, one language family that people might have heard about. Yeah. Is it true that this is one of the best way to raise a bilingual child?
With my own work, I've looked at the policy of the one person, one language in families, bilingual families, in which, for example, the mother speaks one language and the father speaks another language to the child. And what's important is to see exactly how they practice this policy. For example, even though each parent maintains their own language, speaking to the child, they can be receptive in different ways to how the child responds. So, for example, if you have the mother speaking a minority language with the child, and the child responds in the majority language, and if the mother just shows understanding of that and the conversation continues, that gives signals to the child that it's okay to speak the majority language with the parent. On the other hand, I've seen in some families that even with young children as young as 2 years old, that sometimes the parent, oftentimes it's the mother but not always, will react in a way that pretend not to understand, or else reformulate what the child has said in the minority language, and then that shows to the child that the child is socialized into using the minority language with the parent.
So these are very different strategies.
They're different strategies. So there's still, the mother might still be, for example, stick to the mother, might still be responding in her language, the minority language, but giving different signals to the child as to the appropriateness of using the other language with her or maintaining the minority language. So even though it's still a one person, one language policy, we see that there are two different types of practices. And my own experience, and also my children are grown now, but I raised them bilingually at a time when it was difficult, actually many, many years back. But I can remember having contact with lots of families, and oftentimes there wasn't an awareness that those kind of strategies actually can play a very important role in raising a child bilingually. So we give signals to the child as to what kind of linguistic response we would expect from the child.
And so they really pick up on that, and it's really a determinant of how successful or not you might be in raising a bilingual child.
That can play a very significant role. So there's the difference between policy and practice. And that can also explain, in a sense, why this policy doesn't seem to work in some families as opposed to other families. But that being said, we know that a policy in the family is going to be affected also by what's going on in the society around. And so there are many different factors that will contribute. But in any case, if you look specifically at the family, that's an extremely important environment for learning two more languages, and we can start from there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.